right, good evening. I call the Planning Commission for February 3rd, 2025 to order at 7:01 PM. First item of business will be the roll call. I'm present, Chair Andre Testman, Vice Chair Kilcup appears to be absent. We'll come back to her. Commissioner Lambert,
Here, present.
Commissioner Maruziak,
Present.
Commissioner Murphy,
Present.
Commissioner Smith.
Present.
All right, so we have a quorum, and that is good. All right, I don't have any heads up from Commissioner Kilcup. Certainly the first time since I've been chair that, she's been absent, so does anyone have a problem tabling this one?
So you're moving to excuse your absence?
Yes, I moved to excuse her absence.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. And all, in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. All right. One sec. All right, I move that we approve the agenda as written. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, and all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All right. So the agenda is approved as written, and let's move on to the council liaison report from Councilmember Johnson.
Greetings, commissioners. Tonight, I only have one thing, and that is that the council at our last meeting approved a contract with Petite to create a set of City of Snoqualmie design and construction standards that are based on Snoqualmie Ridge. The way that it currently works is if you look up a zoning map of the city, there are a whole bunch of colors downtown, and pretty much most of Snoqualmie Ridge is a big grayish, tannish blob. And what the design standards are not exactly in the code, although in a weird way the code does apply to the whole city, of course, but that particular section says, well, for the design standards of all of that stuff, which is like 90% of the city's population, the design and construction standards and all that stuff are wrapped up in a number of different documents. There is the development agreement, there's the mixed use final plan, there's Snoqualmie Ridge 1 and Snoqualmie Ridge 2, and that effectively means that the vast majority of the city really isn't covered by the municipal code. So this would be a large lift. This is a big thing, and it just gets the ball rolling. It doesn't actually in place any standards whatsoever. It just says, we're going to figure out what this would be to effectively bring the rest of the city into the code, which would be used citywide. So that way all development projects and city capital improvement projects for the future would be covered by this one code instead of having numerous different documents. And as I said, this would be a long process and would most certainly involve the Planning Commission, since the Planning Commission essentially looks through most of these kinds of ordinances and code amendments, and then forwards recommendations on to council. So it very much involves you folks, and I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. And that was the only thing for me tonight. I'd be happy to take any questions you got.
All right, let's round robin it. Commissioner Rizzo?
No, you just curiosity. You mentioned it's going to take a while. Is there a time frame on that look?
Not that I'm aware of off the top of my head. I mean, I'm sure that the contract has specific dates related to it, but yeah, it'll be a long process.
All right.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
Commissioner Smith?
No questions right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Lambert?
No questions right now.
Commissioner Murphy?
No questions.
All right, none for me. Thanks so much,
Okay.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you. And I do apologize. I should head out tonight with the weather the way that it is. I'll try to log on remotely if I can, but otherwise, carry on.
Appreciate it.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I move to approve, and actually, I'm gonna modify that. So, draw your attention to, last session's minutes, so dated January 21st, 2025. I was going to move that we approve them as written, but I'd like to, move that we, approve them with modifications in 2 locations. It's very minor, but it looks like we had 5 total commissioners present, but both of the motions that are listed, one being under special business, and the other being under legislative policy items and regulations, those both show 6-0 votes, when I believe, it would be most accurate to say 5-0 votes. So very, very minor, but, I would propose that.
I'm mentally voting from afar, yeah.
There you
Got it.
go. There you go. I move that we, approve the minutes from January 21st, 2025 with those modifications. Can I get a second?
Second as amended.
All right, and all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, so it looks like the, next item is the historic overlay color palettes. Staff able to talk to that? All right. Turn it over to y'all.
Okay, I'm happy to talk to that. I didn't know if Emily wanted to say anything, but I'm Mona Davis, Senior Planner in the Community Development Department. And so in your packet, I provided a memo that gives a little background on the Snoqualmie Municipal Code requiring historical design review on some of our applications. Which is, of course, designated the Planning Commission, who serves as the Historical Design Review Board. And a Type 1 permit is required to change the exterior paint color using approved colors in the color palette. However, if businesses come in and want to change that color, then they need to request a variance. And we're hearing from our local businesses that's a lengthy and expensive process, and that it would be helpful to have a larger selection of colors that they could choose from. So as provided in your packet materials, there aren't a lot of options currently. And it also doesn't allow the business owner to say, pick color for the building in option 1 and then choose, a trim in option 4. So we'd like to kind of go back and revisit that and perhaps look at what other historic downtowns have done locally and see if there are more colors that we could maybe entertain and give our business owners a little more flexibility that would, work without having to go through a formal variance proposal and add that additional expense to their business model. So anyway, I plan to prepare additional materials for review and discussion at a future regular meeting. I'm hoping to have something for you at the next meeting. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer any.
Yeah, Commissioner Ruzek.
Yeah, just a comment. I mean, usually when they'd ask for a variance, it was very close to the historic palette. There's only one case I remember where there was like a fluorescent green, down by the high school that we had a lot of conversation about. But if it's close, it just doesn't happen to match the same name. There usually wasn't a long discussion on that. So I don't know if you can do a range of the tans and the grays and stuff that we have, but I don't think that would be a problem at all.
Okay, that's good to know. Just a little more options in more of the neutral color base, maybe, and then maybe providing some, we're hearing from our businesses that a lot of times they like to see a color that can kind of pop and, draw attention to their business, and maybe we need to look at that kind of thing to see what that might look like.
How much pop are we talking?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see, how
I'm
much pop,
beyond-
yeah.
I'm curious if anyone else feels this way, but I'm wondering if maybe it's worthwhile to maybe pull some data if possible on how many variances are requested, maybe over the last 5 years, what that processing time looked like, just to better understand the impact on the businesses. And the only reason I raise that is because, case in point, we say, what's the business community looking for? The latitude to, have colors that pop, right? Well, that's gonna mean different things to different people. It certainly meant something to Gear Auto,
Right,
versus
right.
others, right? And so, I guess what I'm saying is, we could do the work to expand this palette. It's really gonna be an expansion on the margins because we're gonna generally stick to these colors, right? Just widen the range a little bit. And so that still potentially leaves us in the position where businesses will still be looking for variances and the problem won't actually have been solved because frankly, they're just looking for something outside of even an expanded color palette. But not to make a mountain out of a molehill, those are my thoughts. I don't know if anyone else. Please, Commissioner.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what other historic districts, as you mentioned, are doing or how they've tackled this. I think that could be a good, another data point and guide for us to take a look at in terms of others in the, King County, Snohomish County, just Washington, broader, Western Washington area. Because I have to imagine we're not alone in some of these issues and also trying to do right by our business owners, not making it onerous on them.
Yeah. Any other commissioners with thoughts?
I tend to agree. I think around the edges is probably, like, if the, what is it called? Decatur buff and you're looking for like Killam beige or something like, there should be some, some variety there besides just that one specific color choice. I do start to worry that if we open the floodgates too far, we may possibly be hearing from other business owners who say, well, geez, I had to do this and, jump through hoops to go with that color is not what I wanted. And then we might, or that could just potentially rub other business owners the wrong way that felt like they had to stick to it. So why aren't they having to, or,
I think that's a fair point. I think we can also say, we've heard from the businesses that that was a very onerous process. And so in an effort to help our small businesses, that we're revisiting that. I think most would understand.
Any other thoughts? All good?
Sorry. What exactly are we trying to preserve as far as historically by limiting the color palette? Like I'm not against it, but I'm like, what historical marker are we trying to hit by saying these are the colors that will keep us in that historical realm?
And actually kind of tied to that is, so that is a federal historic district, right? And so does that obligate certain colors for, to say it simply? I don't know, right?
I'm not sure either, but I'll find out. Good question.
So is it fair to give some general direction? Maybe our goal for the next time we look at this would be to focus on really, one, what are the obligations or what are the constraints driving the current color palette and thus would guide any future color palette? And then two, what are best practices? What are we seeing in similar historic districts in the state of Washington? And you're probably thinking along those lines, but hopefully that kind of narrows your work for the next one versus, even starting to look at like an expanded palette. Commissioner Murray?
Yeah, I mean, since you brought that up, it just dawned on me that King County has a historic commission. I mean, I understand well-staffed and it'd be interesting to see what their thoughts on this are.
I'll look into that.
yeah, I was just doing that same thing as looking up the origin of that, because this has come up before, and I think even several times over recent years. And what I quickly found, at least in 1735 210K, was that choose paint and material colors appropriate to the style and setting of the building. Colors should coordinate with the entire facade and not conflict with adjacent buildings. Color schemes, should be simple in keeping with the community's history. That's the
What they're-
about.
Yeah, pretty neutral. Look at his colors, yeah.
Is that helpful?
That's helpful.
Okay.
Yes, I will bring back some good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Davis. Okay, and I just want to make sure no one else had any other thoughts or comments? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. That concludes historic overlay color palettes. Let's now turn our attention to item number 3, housing regulations and draft amendments, if we're in a position to throw that up.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm joining you here tonight to discuss some potential proposed amendments to the Snoqualmie Municipal Code. As the agenda item describes, this is somewhat a continuation of the efforts that we worked through last year to adopt the requirements of House Bill 1220, which was related to affordable housing for all income levels in the city of Snoqualmie. So the four sections that upon reviewing that were recently enacted by the state legislature, this is a summary of those four enactments and a general idea of kind of what that requirement would look like in the city of Snoqualmie. We are still in the super early stages of this and have only begun to sort of dig into it. So it's not clear exactly yet, what sections of text will be changed and how precisely it will be incorporated into the Snoqualmie Municipal Code. But broadly, these changes are also targeting housing affordability, and it's kind of a different prong of an approach because the House Bill 1220, directly required cities to directly change what types of housing could be required where. Some of these enactments are slightly maybe tangential, you would call it. So, for example, some of them relate to parking requirements for development, and parking is a major expense, can add major expense to new housing production. And so there are now limitations or differences on the ways that cities can legislate those requirements. So going down the list here, we've got RCW 35A 21440. This section pertains to the conversion of existing non-residential buildings. So moving forward, we will be looking at the municipal code to see how we can modify it to allow non-residential buildings to be converted to residential units, but only within any commercial or mixed use zone. And that conversion has to occur completely within the envelope of the building. The city is limited on like what types of requirements we can apply on that conversion. So we are, like I said, still looking into exactly how this will impact our municipal code. RCW 3678-535. Cities must allow co-living housing amendments, and this is kind of what you might imagine dormitory style housing to look like, where you have multiple units that share various facilities. So, for example, a kitchen or a garden or a laundry room, with the goal being to reduce the overall cost of housing in Snoqualmie. And then RCW 3670A-545. This would require the city to allow affordable housing development that's occurring on land owned by a religious organization, certain density bonuses, as long as that development meets certain requirements for affordability. This is, again, giving the opportunity for faith-based organizations to fill an affordability gap that might exist as part of their activities on land that they own. And then RCW 3670A 620 and RCW 3670A 622. Both of these are going to be related to how the city can require parking moving forward for housing development within the city. So for 620, we are going to need to take a look at how we can add text to the municipal code that would allow housing being built within a certain proximity of a transit route to achieve an affordable housing bonus, it's worth noting right now that there are no transit routes within the city that currently meet this standard of qualifying transit route. In order to qualify, that route would need to, that bus stop, for example, would need to have transit service occurring 4 times per hour, 12 hours per day. And there are no transit routes currently that have that level of service within the city. However, that could change over time. So we propose taking a look at how we can incorporate these requirements now in the event that in the future a transit agency does provide Snoqualmie with this level of service. And at that time, these amendments would become active for housing development that's occurring. And then 622, this limits the types of requirements that a city can require for off-street parking for new housing development. So prior to this amendment, cities could say could require a certain amount of parking to be within a garage, or a certain amount of parking to be a certain amount of guest parking, like in a carport. Now, moving forward, the city will not be able to require that type of parking. Developers can still, there will still be a demand for garages and carports and things like that. So developers will likely provide these types of parking as they feel the market demands, rather than now how the municipal code would contemplate. So in order to comply with this requirement, we'll need to take a look at our current parking requirements and likely modify how they apply to new housing development moving forward, to allow developers more flexibility to provide housing with different types of parking that might currently be required. So currently we don't have any strike-through amendments for us to look at this time, but we are in the early stages of developing that information. And so sometime in the coming months, we'll be returning to you with more information and a better idea of how that will apply within the city.
Awesome. Any other remarks before I open it up to the commissioners for questions? All right. Commissioner
Yeah,
Mitchell?
I have two. One is the RCW ending 535. You refer to basically dormitories, which I understand is shared bathrooms or kitchen facilities. I remember attending that debate. It was probably about 5 years ago now, that said that Washington State did not allow that. So is that a change that we can do that now?
Yes, it is a recent change. All of these amendments to the RCWs were enacted in 2024. And so it's just all of them are a part of a recent push at the state level to basically raise the floor for housing development statewide. It's they're trying to increase flexibility and decrease barriers to additional housing, and so this was part of those amendments, including allowing co-living housing as a way to meet maybe demand for example, maybe single people or couples who don't need a full apartment or the amenities that come with that.
Yeah, just to comment, my international travels, that's really what they do. They use dormitories for first timers, and it seems to be, and even single people, it seems to be very well responded to. Second question, RCW ending 545, with the religious thing, you use the phrase 100% affordable. Is that defined in any way? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, apologies for not having a more specific definition in there. There are different levels of affordability that are defined by the state. I, off the top of my head, can't recall what this level of affordability is, but I believe it means that 100% of the units must be affordable, which has its own definition, which I think is no more than 30% of like your monthly income, to a person who is making 80% of the median income of Snoqualmie. So
Could you check that? Because we had a whole long discussion in a joint meeting with the council about a year, maybe it was 2 years ago, really wrestling with the different categories of affordability, because they go from 80%, like you described, all the way down to 30% of average, of which we were asked to add like, hundreds. And we had to go back to the state and say, look, we can only add this much, it needs to be in this category. So that category is actually very, very important.
yeah, and I would also note that for this specific provision, it might be different than what, Snoqualmie has been, the types of units that they've been required to, required by this, or told that they must provide. Those levels of affordability might differ from this requirement. This would just, this change would mean that religious organizations would have the ability to provide, the city would have to allow religious organizations to provide this type of housing development if it meets these affordability requirements. And so I will look into that and make sure that it's included in our next report to the Planning Commission.
Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Yeah, I think, that is always the thing that dings us when it comes to median income here, right? I mean, if we're just looking at like almost double of King County's median income here, not surprisingly, in Snoqualmie, which makes it just incredibly difficult for somebody. But I think it's great that we're looking at these sorts of options and expanding. On the co-living piece, agree. I think, and from what I've seen too, yeah, in bigger cities, New York City, others, that is an effective way of finding, some cheaper housing. And are there a number of lots where that would be a feasible option right now, or is this something that would primarily be as we're looking at some new development options or rezoning?
Realistically, there are not a lot of opportunities for this type of development within the city of Snoqualmie right now. So like I had said, these amendments require us to basically put the floor in. So anything we do will need to meet the basic requirements of these amendments. However, as part of these discussions, it could be that the Planning Commission or City Council, at the point that it reaches them, suggests or decides that, so as it's summarized here, currently it's only allowed on any lot where 6 multifamily units could be built. There are not a lot of lots in Snoqualmie where 6 units can be built. There are some limited areas within the city where this could occur. But on the whole, it's a relatively limited scope of this amendment. We could propose increasing, making more flexibility by lowering this requirement and saying on any lot, or where 3 multifamily units could be built, to increase the area where this change could apply. Alternatively, the Planning Commission could recommend to just implement the base requirement, which would be anywhere where 6 multifamily units could be built.
Commissioner Lambert?
Yeah, quick question. When it says in the 21-440, buildings to residential uses in any commercial or mixed use zone, looking at our zoning codes, does the commercial include like business retail 1, BR2, business office? That's all commercial as well?
Yeah, that would be staff's interpretation of this requirement. So I believe business general, BR1, BR2. Once we take a closer look at the specific language of how these how commercial and mixed use zones are defined in the RCWs, we'll have a better idea of the zones that this change will apply to. But we know that it will likely apply to the BR1, BR2 zones. So downtown Snoqualmie, for example. But this doesn't mean that, so the language here, I would say, this doesn't mean that Snoqualmie has to allow non-residential buildings to be converted to residential uses indiscriminately. We just must not prohibit it here. So we can place guardrails on that type of development, For example, we likely can continue to regulate that development can only occur on the second floor. But we can't, which is already allowed within the BR1 and BR2 zone. So but we might have to expand flexibility for what we can require as part of that residential conversion. So for example, we might not be able to require that the developer update their building with the most recent energy code. That's part of this amendment. There's a lot of flexibility here, and we'll have to take a close look at how it applies.
Thank you.
Yeah, one quick question on section 620 on the parking requirements near transit stops. This seems to me that's like kind of nibbles around the edges of like transit-oriented development. I know there's a lot of talk in the legislative session right now on this issue. Is there anything else in this legislation or in this law that's already passed that speaks to transit-oriented development? This parking requirement seems to kind of like skirt the edges there. Maybe I'm looking a little bit too much into it, but I don't know if you can speak to that that question for me.
Unfortunately, well, I can speak to it to the extent that I don't believe Snoqualmie will be required to implement any form of transit-oriented development at this time beyond these modifications to the parking requirements within a certain radius of a transit stop. Beyond that, I unfortunately don't have more information for you. But I do agree that it is like you had said, nibbling around the
It's in
T.
the same ballpark, but nothing
Yeah.
else in this law relates to items of relating to transit-oriented development.
Currently, I don't believe that this law will require us to change like the types and densities of residential uses that can occur within proximity of a transit route. So I don't believe that there are any additional requirements beyond minimum parking limits on minimum parking requirements.
Great, appreciate the answer.
Any other questions? All good? Okay. I don't have any questions on my end. It looks like, we've got next steps outlined there. Currently, if you look at the future agenda list, we're supposed to look at this again on the March 3rd meeting. Hope maybe we'll hit that, maybe we won't, but that's what's currently budgeted. So I think sounds like we'll get a lot more details at that next review. All right. Anything else, Mr. Levins?
That's all for me. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you so much. I do want to make note for the record that we're fortunate enough to have Commissioner Kilcup join us, so she has been present. So we're at 6 commissioners, so
Still 5.
still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
5 in person, 6 with Commissioner Kilcup.
You're right, 6.
So thanks for making it to the meeting. Okay. Let's move on to items of planning commissioner interest. I'm only going to start this time just because I do want to ask Ms. Davis, did you get more than 2 responses on the meeting time?
No, unfortunately, I just received 2 responses.
You just received, okay. Okay, so we're up to 4? The total response?
No, just 2
Oh, just
total
2, okay.
responses, yes.
Okay.
And do you want me to relay what the vote was?
Sure. Let's do
I don't know who responded.
that.
I tried to find that out, but apparently.
It was anonymous?
Yeah, it was anonymous. One person was good with all the proposed dates and times. And then one was only good with the 7 to 9 time slot, either on the 1st and 3rd Monday that we have now, or the 2nd and 4th Tuesday from 7 to 9.
Okay. One was good across the board.
So do you want me to extend the poll a little longer and give others an opportunity to respond, or?
Let's do this. I mean, fortunately, we have everyone present today, so that's great. I know that I missed the session where Commissioner Smith, I guess they talked about it, and you indicated like Tuesdays or something were not good. So anyway, so these were the options in the poll.
Mhm.
I'll just read them out loud and then we can kind of go into discussion. But option one was the second and fourth Mondays of the month from 4 to 6 p.m. Option two was the second and fourth Tuesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Option three, sticking with the current schedule, which is the first and third Mondays from 7 to 9. And then option four is to move to the second and fourth Tuesdays from 7 to 9. Is that accurate? Second and fourth. So I think that was meant to be the first and third, right? Second and fourth, second and fourth. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so second and fourth Tuesday, 7 to 9. So really, all that matters is the day of the week and the time. But and if I need to read any of those, let me know. But otherwise, yeah. Commissioner
Could I ask a
Eden?
question?
Yeah.
I would love to meet earlier, but, I don't think that works. Does that work for anybody?
It's hard. It's on Monday. I can make it work on Monday, but that's the only day I could do earlier.
It doesn't work for Dan.
I cannot do earlier. 7 to 9 is the only window I'm available.
And, does it work for you?
It would be, earlier would be hard.
Yeah, yeah.
So if early is hard, I guess, does that just kind of automatically kind of, and, Commissioner Kilcup, let me raise your hand just actually just go off mute and feel free to chime in. I want to make sure you're actively part of it.
These, thank you. And
Yeah.
I am so sorry for being late, and not in person. They are not substantially different for me. I think that if it's Mondays and Tuesdays are not different for me, and 7 p.m. is probably better than 4 p.m. for my logistics.
Hmm. Okay. So I guess for efficiency, is it fair to say that options 1 and 2 just kind of don't work then? Because both of those are 4 to 6 p.m. Yeah, okay. So then it's sticking with what we currently have or moving to Tuesdays. Now, could you support Tuesday, 7 to 9, if that was better for everyone else, Commissioner Smith? And it's okay if no.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking myself, I was thinking my son's baseball schedule's changing for a few months, but,
Yeah.
I could probably make it.
And then let me ask this question, Ms. I know that this list came due in small part to availability of this room. I'm just throwing it out there, and I don't know if it's supportable, but sounds like earlier is better for some. Is 6 available, like 6 to 8, I guess it would be?
Well, I went through the room
Yeah.
and if I didn't give the time option, then I don't recall that it
Wasn't.
was. I think there was a committee meeting or I can't remember what was on Tuesdays at 6, maybe arts and F&A, that's right, yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
it wasn't available.
Okay. Okay, so that kind of frames things. So really, the question becomes, it looks like 7 to 9, and so is Tuesday a better day than Mondays for anyone?
I prefer Mondays, but I can make Tuesdays work.
Likewise, prefer Mondays. I can make Tuesday work.
And you prefer Mondays as well? Okay.
Same here. I mean, I prefer Mondays.
Okay,
If we can't go earlier, yeah.
well, then it sounds like.
I was just going to interject something, Chair.
Yes, sorry.
No worries. We might be able to double check on did you say a 6 o'clock start time? If it was on a second and fourth Monday, that might work. I mean, we'd have to go back and double check it. Typically, there's no committee meetings on the second and fourth Tuesdays, not on Mondays.
Second and fourth. Okay. So is 6 to 8 a viable window for folks?
Works for me.
Yeah. Shift us a little bit earlier.
Still like 7, but
Chair.
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Dina Burke, the city attorney. For the second and fourth Tuesday, the only time you'd run into an issue is when we have a holiday on a Monday. The council meeting usually gets bumped to that Tuesday. and the council meetings. I might be looking. So council meetings are usually on the second and fourth Monday. And so if there's a federal holiday, then that would get bumped to the council meeting gets shifted to the Tuesday and then would overlap with a planning commission meeting.
No, planning commission always bumps over as well. So if the holiday falls on a Monday, they get bumped to Tuesday.
But if they're shifting to the Tuesday
Yeah, they'd get shifted to Wednesday.
Okay, I mean, that's what the plan would be, then there wouldn't be the overlap.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's an expectation that they're going to have to be shifted if everything else is shifted.
And then I guess the question would be, is Wednesday going to be a day that works for everyone? From when there's a holiday on that Monday?
So just to be clear, we're saying, rather than the first and third Monday, you're saying maybe we do the second and fourth Monday at 6, that would bounce to a Wednesday if there's a holiday because of the council meeting. Is that what I heard?
It would be if it's on the second, if it's on the second and fourth Tuesday at 7, there is a potential overlap with the council meeting if the council meeting's on a bumping to the Tuesday due to the holiday. So it would only be when there's a federal holiday on a Monday, council meeting bumps to the Tuesday, depending on what time if you're starting the planning commission at 7 p.m. due to people's work life, etc. schedules, you're going to have an overlap of council and commission. And so then I would want to make sure everyone's on board that you have Wednesdays at 7 p.m. potentially available for when the stars align, that there's a federal holiday or state city holiday that causes this kind of shuffle down the week.
Yeah.
So it sounded like Community Development Director Artete, it sounded like maybe it's worth going back, double checking the room availability for either the first and third Monday or the second and fourth Tuesdays in the new time block of 6 to 8.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. And so staff will look at that. We'll hold what we have and continue at the current time, and then we'll plan on talking about it again at the next meeting if that works for everyone. But it'll be focused on shifting at least to 6 to 8, so a little bit earlier, just on one of those 2 days. Yeah.
So if I could just interject, for the first and third Mondays, we have a committee meeting at 6 o'clock.
Okay, so that's not even an option.
No, okay, I vetted this pretty well.
Yeah.
And, then we were looking at staff time, IT support, so, there's an expectation that staff are here Monday nights and Tuesday nights. It was becoming a lot to try to make that also Wednesdays or Thursdays.
Yeah.
So.
And, okay, so and so, like, Ms. Burke just pointed out, if we shifted to the second and fourth Tuesday at that earlier time of 6 to 8, we're setting ourselves up for at least several times a year asking staff to come in on a Wednesday when they probably came in on the Tuesday and all that, and we're pushing that envelope for staff as well.
Well, and I think it also interferes with a committee meeting,
Yeah.
bumping it up earlier those nights.
Yeah.
Well, not on a second and fourth Tuesday though. Second and fourth Tuesday is just council on a Monday night. There's no committee meetings or commissions.
Second and fourth Tuesday?
Yeah, second and fourth Monday is council.
So for I'm sorry, may I just ask a clarifying question?
6 to
Yeah.
8.
Yeah, so the second and fourth Tuesday, are we talking about a 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. start time?
Well, so I threw out the potential of shifting earlier to a 6 to 8 time window.
So the second and fourth Tuesday is where you have the council meeting overlap on the holidays. And then if the planning commission's getting bumped to the Wednesday,
Yeah.
it's like what Ms. Davis brought up, where staff have kind of arranged their personal life matters so that people are working late Mondays and Tuesdays. I think if we're throwing Wednesdays into the mix, that can become challenging for staff.
Yeah. Okay.
But we,
Commissioner Lambert. Oh. Community development.
I was just gonna say, it's exactly what we do now. We always shift a day over, like we did for MLK. We have to shift a day when there's a holiday.
I agree, but we're shifting to a Tuesday, not to a Wednesday.
Which,
Well,
I
we'd
guess
be-
I guess we
we'd be-
did. We
yeah,
did
we'd be-
on
Yeah, we
yeah.
shift into a Wednesday. So normally we shift to a Tuesday. If they move
Yeah.
their meeting date to a second and fourth Tuesday, it would shift to a Wednesday. So
Right.
yeah.
Commissioner Lambert, were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna ask what's best for staff.
Well, it sounds like the Monday and Tuesday, which.
Saturday at 3.
That's hockey.
Well, we would have to look at that. You know, we were kind of trying to get a feel for what the planning commission would like, and then we'd have to go back and check with the city attorney and check with our IT department and just kind of vet people's schedules.
Yeah, so lay of the land sounds like looking into that second and fourth Tuesdays, 6 to 8, knowing that sets us up for some conflicts as the year progresses, and staff's willingness and ability to deal with that, or sticking with what we have.
Does what we have conflict with staff at all?
No,
Maybe we just stick with what we have, because it seems like it'd be the easiest thing to do.
And I'm okay with that. Let's do a quick vote on it, shall we? On, sticking with, our current day and time?
Make the motion.
All right. I move that we stick with our current schedule, which is, what do we call it, the first and third Mondays, 7 to 9 p.m. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay. So we'll keep our current schedule.
In the end.
But thank you for looking into it.
yeah, thank you.
Again,
We appreciate
hopefully
it.
what was clear from the discussion is we're obviously motivated to do the work of the planning commission. We're all busy people and it's always a balancing act, but at the same time, we fundamentally understand the obligations that it imposes on staff. And so we appreciate the work that you put into supporting this. So we're always, I think it's fair to say, open to flexibility or whatever to hopefully get in a good spot for everybody. So it seems like we're there, and if we need to reevaluate in the future, we could certainly do that, but I think we're in a good spot. Okay, good discussion. Thanks for that. We are still on items of planning commissioner interest, and so I'll yield to Commissioner Maruziak.
I have nothing at this point.
Okay, Commissioner Smith?
After all that, just one, and I apologize I couldn't make the last meeting, but given, I didn't prepare anything because it's gonna be hard, but given some of my schedule and work challenges, I think it's best that I need to step down at this time after 14 years. But it's getting hard with my son's baseball schedule being more recurring, and just work also is becoming a challenge with schedule. So, yeah.
Wow. Well. And
It's hard to say goodbye because
yeah,
I think one of the first things I worked on was the 2032 comprehensive plan that seemed so far away, and now it's just around the corner. Which is wild to think about, but
my goodness.
yeah.
Well, gosh,
So maybe that makes scheduling a little bit easier now that you fixed it, but.
revote, no, no, I know personally, I've had the pleasure of working with you for a little over 2 years now, yeah. I know you and Commissioner Maruziak have gone a long way.
Go back to pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, yeah.
Right, and same with Commissioner Lambert, so I totally understand, and you will be missed, so sorry about that. All right. Commissioner Lambert,
Nothing at this time.
tough act to follow. Commissioner Murphy.
I just have one quick question. This might actually draw on some of both of your guys' tenure here on the planning commission with the city. What, there's, I think a lot of, chatter, not just chatter, but like, you know, anticipating like a SVSD levy for next year and new construction of new schools, and one right here in Snoqualmie, the proposed, SMS replacement up on the ridge. And wanted to see like when the new high school came in, or other types of like SVSD, like capital projects, what degree of like traffic studies and other types of like, planning or city involvement is there with those projects? Or are those like parcels like kind of like grandfathered in and there's not a ton of like work that we or others of the city would do? Just trying to get a sense of that. We've just seen a lot more. The SVSD board presented their latest capital project like plan on Monday, and it looks like some of these, school enhancements are moving forward, rightfully so, given some of the condition of some of these facilities. So I don't know if planning commissioners have any experience with other, maybe it's the Mount Si rebuild or others, where, other types of like planning commission concerns came into play.
Gosh, even going back to when Timber Ridge Elementary was built, yeah, and at that time, there was a lot of work done around traffic and even in hindsight, we still didn't quite nail it with like some of the backups that happened during drop off and pickup. But there was a lot of work that went into kind of figuring out just coming in and out of the property and traffic impacts. But that's been a number of years.
Right.
I don't remember as much for the high school. I think probably because it was an existing. I can't remember. Were you here for the?
Yeah, no, I was here
I don't-
when it opened, but
think we
yeah,
did.
other than the Wildcat Way discussion.
Yeah. That was
Okay. We're just wondering, and it's been something that neighbors and folks in our neck of the woods have started to pay more attention to, given that new middle school in the Ridge is coming closer to a reality, and I think like it's a welcome one, right? Given that the condition of the current school and having like another neighborhood school could be a great added benefit, provided that obviously we're taking into account some of these other things like traffic and drop off and where the buses go and egress and ingress, things like that.
It's probably been so many years since that property was set aside. I mean, especially with turnover of homeowners and whatnot, people you just think, oh, it's a beautiful park area, but it's district's owned it
Yeah,
for all these years, and people maybe just don't even know that because that's been the intended use, and I'm sure that would be a concern, additional bus traffic and people coming in and drop offs and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, the levy has to pass, so you don't put the cart too far in front of the horse here, so.
Actually, I mean, why don't we ask the staff to, what's going on with that middle school? I saw it as well. At first thought, I like SMS. It's got a historic vibe. It's a weird school, but it's got a historic vibe. But surely the district has to say something before they put a middle school in Carmichael area, right? I mean, could we find out more about it and what would be required?
Sure, we can do some more research on it. I don't believe any of the staff has any information on it right now.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
I do know that the capital facilities plans for the school district are going to be kind of sorted out and vetted and then sent through for a review and approval at King County this summer. And then, their new school impact fees will be based on the needs that they have for the following year. So we'll have more information about that as well.
Yeah, it looks like they want to get the levy on for next February, with the three.
February 2026.
Yeah, that will fund the three replacement SMS, NBE, and Fall City Elementary School replacements.
Okay,
That's
well, I see that, yes.
that's the tentative like
So-
working backwards plan.
Yeah.
That was I believe presented last week.
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Yeah, it'd be good to find out, particularly the one up by Carmichael. Yeah.
All good?
Good.
Commissioner Kilcup? Any items of interest?
I guess just one. I was walking past the splash pad and I saw that something has happened there. So that's not really just a bit of an announcement.
Exciting.
Very exciting for all of us. Yes.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. All right, and let's move on then to upcoming schedule, looking at item number 4, future agenda list. If we can bring that up. And then Community Development Director Arteta, did you want to speak to this or me?
If you'd like to go ahead and go.
Okay.
Happy to help you if you need it.
Yeah, SVH, I don't know that one.
We're anticipating design review for Snoqualmie Valley Hospital.
Oh, okay. Okay. Gotcha. All right, yeah, so as you can see there, for the next meeting, it looks like Snoqualmie Valley Hospital design review. That's new to me, so we learned that together. We'll move on with city history. Is that gonna be another additional videos to watch, or what was the plan for that one?
Yes, we do have a video. It is from former Mayor Matt Larson, and Senior Planner Mona Davis has got that kind of queued up for next time.
Awesome. Okay. And then this Friday, I'll be going to the next climate change working group meeting. So I should have an update for the commission there on the 18th. And then I think everyone's tracking on the wireless code amendment kind of focus. So we'll kick that off in that next meeting, hopefully. Any questions on the future agenda list?
One thing, Chair, how do I request to do remote? I will be in Skagit on the 18th for work. I won't be able to make it in person, but I will remotely.
Yeah. I don't think we have to make it too difficult. Like if it's something you can forecast, I think this is great during this time, right? And so, all right, like we'll plan on you being remote or whatever. And then if it's a situation where it's ad hoc, something came up or whatever, then I do, and I'm gonna try and make it a routine, checking my email 30 minutes prior to the meeting or whatever. Ideally, earlier is better, but stuff happens. So yeah, if you just shoot an email, I think that should suffice. And if it seems like something that needs to be more formal, then we'll figure that out as a commission. But I think, does that sound good to everyone? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we're good on the future agenda list, and then let's close it out with work program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Community development.
Well, you feel free to go ahead if you'd like.
Well, I was just trying to see, I know you and I kind of updated some projected dates, but I think certainly everything in future work program items on the bottom, I think nothing down there on the bottom is news to anyone on the commission. It looks like, correct me if I'm wrong, Community Development Director Arteta, the housing RCW, the last two items are tied into what we're looking at with multifamily. Is that
Correct. Yeah.
so that's just tied into that. We've already kicked off color palette, and then and we also talked about co-living. So the only thing potentially new, and I don't think so, I think we talked about it last time, it's the city-wide development standards, which Councilmember Johnson hit on as well. So I don't think there's anything surprising on here, but it looks like our work for that specifically will be in the second half of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Any questions from the commission on that? Okay. All right. Well, I think we've achieved what we needed to. Yes.
I'm
Ms. Davis?
sorry, we just had a point. We were curious for Commissioner Smith's resignation from the Planning Commission. Is that effective immediately, or is there a date that in mind?
2027?
Let's see, do I get severance after that? Well, I know the next meeting will be on a Tuesday and I have a conflict there, so probably makes sense to do it effective immediately.
Yeah, well, thank you for volunteering for all these years.
Hard to believe I think I was 34 when I started this and I'm getting close to 50. It's crazy.
Wow,
That-
congratulations
As long as
first.
I've been working, been a, well, any job or longer than my kid's been alive, which is crazy. It's been a lot, I've seen a lot over the years with the comp plan and the development of Safeway and Timber Ridge, redevelopment of the high school and the hotel and a whole lot of other stuff in between. It's been,
Two comprehensive plans?
yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
That's crazy.
And you were chair for quite a number of years, right?
Yeah, maybe 3. I kind of got thrust into the role unexpectedly when our chair at the time had to resign, or was forced out, whatever the case may have been. Yeah, I've seen a lot. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure and honor watching the city continue to grow and being able to play a little small role in that.
Part of that history, yeah. Thank you. And you actually made me think something. I would request to be remote as well. On the 18th, I'll be in Columbia with my wife's family, so. But,
One up me, eh?
sorry. Oh, my gosh. I'd rather be skiing. That's okay. All right. Well, without further ado, I move that we conclude today's planning commission meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Have a good night, everyone.